Welcome to the debate. We delve into, some of the most compelling intellectual disagreements shaping our understanding of critical issues. And today, we're really confronting a fundamental question, one that's right at the heart of digital identity. Will passwords endure? Or are they truly destined for obsolescence in this increasingly passwordless world we keep hearing about?
Exactly. We're going to examine this emerging landscape of passwordless security, things like passkeys, and put it, head-to-head against a pretty innovative approach to fortifying traditional passwords, championed by Secure My Digital, or SMD.
Right. And this discussion, it really springs from some fascinating source material, diving deep into advanced data protection methods, particularly SMD's innovative take on securing both human and, interestingly, non-human identities alongside broader cybersecurity principles. My position? I'm here to contend that these advanced fortification techniques, like those pioneered by SMD, can render traditional credentials not just viable, but demonstrably more secure and resistant to a broader spectrum of attacks than many passwordless solutions out there.
And I'll be arguing the opposite essentially, that passwordless authentication, by inherently eliminating the very concept of a memorized or shared secret, offers a more fundamental and ultimately a superior security model. It moves us beyond the inherent risks tied to any form of password, no matter how cleverly you try to protect it.
Okay, let's kick this off then. I genuinely believe SMD's architecture doesn't just tweak password security, it fundamentally redefines it. It makes traditional credentials remarkably resilient, perhaps surprisingly so for those who've maybe largely written passwords off already. See, our identities, according to SMD, are protected with what they call generated strong passwords derived from a memorable password. They even mention the everyday mom and dad type password, so it combines user convenience with incredibly high entropy through their process.
Convenience and high entropy, that's always the tricky balance, isn't it?
It is. And the real innovation, I think, lies in how these derived passwords are fortified. They're mixed with a secret seed. Now, this seed is essentially a highly random, unpredictable value, ensuring enough computational entropy to resist even the most determined brute force attacks. But here's the absolute game changer for me. No password material will ever be stored anywhere.
Okay.
This completely eliminates the primary vector for credential theft, right? It prevents breaches from compromised databases, a common vulnerability we see all the time, even with robust encryption. And then there are the system's contextual and biometric enhancements, like keystroke dynamics analysis. This adjusts the security level in real time. If it detects, say, illegitimate or odd use of a credential, it prompts for an extra factor. This makes the derived password genuinely unphishable, as they claim. So this robust, unphishable, unstealable password system, I argue, offers superior security and maybe even user experience compared to many key-based solutions, which, let's be honest, often end up being shared or copied in unmanaged ways, introducing all sorts of new vulnerabilities.
Okay, I hear your points, and I definitely acknowledge SMD's innovations are impressive in how they fortify passwords, but I still come at it from a fundamentally different angle. For me, the real security advantages of true passwordless solutions, like passkeys, stem from inherently eliminating the password concept altogether. It's not about making the password stronger, it's about getting rid of it.
But is it getting rid of the secret or just changing its form?
Well, passwordless systems typically leverage asymmetric encryption. That's the sophisticated method with public and private keys, and they're often hardware-bound. Think FIDO authentication protocols. These rely on cryptographic keys generated and stored securely on a user's device, and crucially, they're never transmitted or exposed to a server. The principle here is eliminating long-lived secrets. That's paramount for high security. If a secret never exists long-term, it can't be stolen long-term. Some sources argue this gets you, 90% of the way towards robust protection because you're removing the primary target. Passwordless authentication embodies this by removing any user-memorized or easily extractable secret. It directly mitigates risks like phishing, keyloggers, and server-side breaches.
Even with all the keystroke dynamics and secret seed fortification you mentioned, that initial mom and dad password, however it's derived,
still begins as a human-remembered secret, and that fundamentally introduces a potential attack surface through social engineering or even just simple observation, like shoulder surfing. Passkeys, tied to biometrics or just the device being present, offer a different kind of resistance because the cryptographic key itself can't just be extracted and used remotely.
That's an interesting point on the initial input, though I would frame it differently. SMD's approach, I think, truly redefines what a password is. It moves it from being that traditional shared secret to a dynamically derived ephemeral value. It's rooted in a memorable input, yes, but crucially, it's never stored. This no password material stored anywhere, that fundamentally changes the game, doesn't it? It makes the debate more about stored versus non-stored secrets, not simply password versus no password. And those contextual biometric enhancements, like the real-time keystroke dynamics, they actively protect that initial mom and dad input, making it incredibly resilient. It's an active, dynamic defense, not just a static credential waiting to be cracked.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the initial input isn't still a fundamental vulnerability point. Even if the derived material isn't stored, isn't that initial mom and dad input still a user-managed secret? Something someone knows? And that's where human fallibility always creeps in. Passwordless systems like passkeys, they're aiming for a complete paradigm shift. The user doesn't even know the secret in the same way. Instead, their device proves their identity using hardware-bound keys, maybe biometrics. These are fundamentally more difficult to compromise through human mistakes or social engineering. It aligns perfectly with that eliminating long-lived secrets principle, the core of advanced security. The less a human has to remember or manages a secret, the better. That's really why passkeys are so compelling. The user is kind of taken out of the loop of managing the actual secret itself.
Okay, so we've definitely established our differing views on the fundamental nature of the secret itself. But let's maybe shift gears now to something more tangible for listeners. How do these approaches actually fare against real-world attacks, like phishing or brute force? My argument is that SMD explicitly combats phishing by making the fortified password unphishable, their term, through that real-time keystroke dynamics and trust assessment. It's designed to provide decoy keys if threats are detected, basically feeding a phisher useless information. Brute force attacks, mitigated by the strong entropy from secret seed mixed into the derivation process. It makes it computationally infeasible to guess. And, importantly, the non-storage of the actual password material makes it resistant to extraction for rubber hose attacks aimed at remote use. The underlying secret for derivation just isn't physically present to be stolen after the initial authentication. It's dynamic, not static.
That's a compelling case for SMD's defense mechanisms, absolutely. But let's look at the inherent design of passkeys against those same threats. Passkeys offer inherent phishing resistance simply because the authentication happens directly between the user's device and the service. It's not going through user input on some website that might be malicious. There's literally no credential to phish. The user isn't typing anything sensitive that can be intercepted or spoofed in the same way. Brute force? Largely irrelevant against hardware-bound keys. They just aren't susceptible to dictionary attacks like a password is. And, no system can fully defeat physical coercion. You can always compel someone under duress. Passkeys ensure the cryptographic private key never leaves the device. That's critical. It means it cannot be extracted and then used remotely by an attacker after coercion. Any compromise, if it happens, is localized to that specific device, not a universal credential that can be used from anywhere else. That feels like a distinct advantage over even a very highly fortified but still ultimately remembered password input.
That's a powerful distinction on the attack vectors, I grant you. But let's broaden our scope just a bit. You touched on SMD's keyless framework earlier. It's important to realize it's not just about human passwords. It truly extends to non-human identities, NHIs. These operate entirely without persistent secrets, relying instead on ephemeral, cryptographically derived power of attorney, or POA tokens. This holistic architecture offers no shared secrets and granular control across the entire digital ecosystem. This directly tackles vulnerabilities often found in traditional key-based solutions, which often ends up being shared or copied in an unmanaged way, creating huge blind spots and attack surfaces. So this proactive elimination of static secret storage across the board for humans and machines makes for a more secure ecosystem overall. It feels like a systemic solution to what is really a systemic problem.
Okay. While SMD champions being keyless through non-storage, I think it's really important to clarify that passkeys or passkey solutions are key-based in a cryptographic sense. They use asymmetric key pairs. However, and this is the crucial difference for me, their private keys are uniquely designed to be hardware-bound and, critically, non-exportable. This design choice fundamentally prevents that very problem you highlighted, the shared, copied, in an unmanaged way issue. By making the keys technically unshareable and intrinsically tied to a specific device, passkeys provide a different and, I would argue, potentially more robust form of systemic security. It's not about actively defending a derived password. It's about an architectural constraint built into the key itself that prevents its misuse from the outset. So while SMD aims for no shared secrets through non-storage, passkeys achieve something similar through the design and immobility of the key itself.
While we've certainly highlighted some genuinely innovative approaches to securing digital identities today in a world that's frankly rife with threats, it's abundantly clear that the landscape of authentication is evolving rapidly, demanding ever more sophisticated solutions. I, for one, remain convinced that the ingenuity behind SMD's Fortified password system offers a truly compelling and robust answer to modern cybersecurity challenges. By making passwords even simple mom and dad passwords, when fortified correctly, unstealable, unphishable, and surprisingly resilient, this innovation, I believe, ensures that traditional passwords can indeed secure their place in the future of authentication. They're not dead yet.
And I still maintain that the inherent architectural advantages of passwordless security by fundamentally removing that human-managed secret and leveraging device-bound cryptography represent a more forward-thinking and ultimately, I believe, a more secure path for our digital identities. Even as password systems become increasingly sophisticated, that conceptual leap of eliminating the password itself carries significant long-term security benefits that I think will ultimately prevail. We've definitely explored the nuances today, eliminating versus fortifying secrets, the specific attack vectors each approach better, and how keyless can be interpreted in different ways. Ultimately, the choice of which method, or perhaps combination of methods, will truly define the future of authentication. While that remains for the future to decide, really underscoring the value of considering multiple perspectives in this absolutely critical domain.